So I'm going to call the meeting to order. The Board of Electrologists and Body Art Practitioners Electrology Rules Advisory and Qualification Committee meeting is convening at 10:03 a.m. on May 12, 2021 at the Health Licensing Office in Salem, Oregon. By telephone conference call, I will now call roll. Jamie Bloom. Sheila Ahern.
Here.
Daniel Fott. No Danielle. Cynthia Mendoza.
Yes.
Here. Lacey Keeney.
Okay. I will get out of this one and go ahead to that one.
Lacey.
Okay. We'll log in right now.
We're missing somebody.
I'm sorry, what?
We're missing a committee member. Members, when you wish to speak, please state your name, your last name for the record. For the record, public members calling into the public phone line are asked to email Audrey Jones.
Here.
Okay. Now, members, when you wish to speak, please state your name, last name for the record. For the record, public members calling into the public phone line are asked to email April Fleming at april.fleming@dhsoha.state.or.us. Provide your first and last name. The public and interested parties feedback period may be heard during the public and interested parties feedback period if indicated on the agenda. Everyone is asked to use appropriate language, manners, and protocols when conducting board business. This meeting is now called to order. Oh, that was a jaunt. Okay, so first meeting as I called it to order, and now we're going to do some introductions. So some of you know me, some of you don't. I'm Sammy Patnode. I'm the policy analyst for this board. Specifically, I've been here 25 years, so I wasn't here when they brought on electrology and tattooing, but I was here when they brought on body piercing and when they combined them all. So I drafted rules, work through the committee, work with the board on how, making recommendations and decisions. And then if laws need written or changed, then I'll work through those. I work with legislators and again, the board and administration. Cynthia?
My name is Cynthia Murphy. I'm the qualification analyst for the Health Licensing Office. I write education, training, and examinations for this board and several others in our office.
Jamie, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Jamie Bloom. I'm past president of OALE. I've been on the board many times over the years. I've been an electrologist in Oregon for 33 years, and I'm very involved in the electrolysis profession.
Sheila, go ahead.
Well, my qualifications are about the same as Jamie's. Work in OALE and worked with the advisory council early on. Also been a proctor for exams.
Can someone help me? I have no audio. I'm trying to get audio.
You have audio. We can hear you.
Who doesn't have audio?
Lacey? I don't know who's waiting in the lobby.
Hold on, I'm looking. Who is April, Audrey? I don't have that phone number.
Hey, is somebody have music playing in the back? If you could all mute yourselves.
Yeah, I'm trying to call in.
She's unmute herself.
I can hear you. Lacey, can you hear me? You need to unmute yourself on your computer up on the right-hand side. You have a little microphone, and it's next to the video.
I know you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah.
But I'm not receiving any audio from you guys.
You can't hear us now?
Lacey, you can't hear us?
I tried to call in, but no one let me in on the call-in part.
We can tell her we can call in. I didn't know it was her.
Sammy's going to assist you with the call-in.
Go ahead and call her.
Yeah, Judy.
All right, Lacey, there's a little, next to your name is a hand. Click that off.
Why don't you mute us?
Okay, good.
Okay, no.
I still can't hear you guys.
I don't have control. He does. Unmute us.
On my screen, it's showing all of you as muted.
Right. Can you hear me now?
No.
She's not hearing
It must be in her settings.
Cynthia, she's not hearing us.
Jamie, tell her to call the phone number. I didn't know whose number it was. I looked it up and it's her.
All right. Lacey, can you hear me?
She can't hear you,
No,
Jamie.
I'll call her on her phone.
Thank you.
It's going to pop up and just submit.
Lacey, Sammy just told me to tell you to call in on the telephone number.
I did, and no one would let me in.
Yes, call now.
Call now.
All right, call now.
Okay, thank you.
What are you do about it? She can't hear. She can't hear us. I'm muted, right? So nobody can hear me.
Cynthia, do you know that you are muted?
Yes, you should be muted too, Jamie.
Yes, you should be muted too. When I mute, everybody should be muted.
All right, I just wanted to let you know.
Okay.
All right, I'm muting myself.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Lacey, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I can see you now. I don't know. It's showing little microphones. On my screen, it's showing everybody's muted, and I'm trying to figure out how to unmute everybody, but it won't do it, so.
It's probably in your settings in your computer somewhere.
Okay.
Somebody muted everybody.
No, you didn't.
I don't know. Okay.
I don't know why you think that.
I don't know.
This person's not muted.
I don't know. That's Lacey.
I know.
Okay. Okay, let's move
Okay,
on.
Lacey, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
So I'm Lacey King. I'm the new president of Oregon Association of Licensed Electrologists. I own Willamette Valley Aesthetics Electrolysis in Eugene, Oregon. My primary focus is on the medical end of electrology. About 85% of my work is transgender pre-surgery and polycystic ovarian syndrome and hormonal issues, and then I'd say the rest is cosmetic hair removal, about 20%. So.
Okay, thank you. Audrey, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Audrey Jones. I currently work in Vancouver, Washington, but live in Oregon, and I am newly appointed to the board of Electrology and Body Art Practitioners, and I'm excited to kind of help shape the new future of electrolysis.
And Cynthia, you want to introduce yourself? You're muted, Cynthia.
Cynthia Mendoza, been doing electrology since 1981. Had a school for well over 30 years, and I'm just here to assist in doing whatever we can to make this more feasible for the education.
Great, and Danielle, you're still not on, correct? Okay, I don't have Danielle. Okay, so what we're going to do is, I did change up the agenda, the order a little bit, didn't change the content, just because it made more sense this way. So we're first going to discuss Oregon, the one career school that is not currently taking new students, and then a curriculum review. I've been here 25 years, and I have, never seen the curriculum like on paper, and two, we've never done any kind of changes to it. So kind of just looking at a starting point of what's currently in the rule and what that looks like on paper. And then Cerinthia has, based on the previous meeting we had in March and discussions we've had and information we've received since then, put together a document that would change up the hours, add some things in, and she'll go over all of that. The other thing we're going to look at is other state requirements. Conveniently, finding other state requirements is not that easy. You have to dig into their websites and you have to deep dive. So I'm still working on that. I'll be doing that once she's working on the curriculum review. And then we're going to look at some alternative pathways to licensure. One thing we know is if we don't have a school, we do need to have some way of allowing people to become electrologists in Oregon. So what does that look like? The most basic thing that we would do would be a training program. We have many other boards that have that. Body piercing has a training program. Hearing aid specialist has a training program. Does nursing home administrators have a training program? I think so. Anyway, so we have done that before. I marked up a rule that just to show you what that would look like, and then based on what you decide in the curriculum review today, we'll work on the rule and how that would play out there under the continued review of the Rules Advisory Committee report, and then we'll look at the draft rule language. So, and then talk about alternative examinations if we want to. So it's kind of a fluid conversation. First thing we're going to start with is the current curriculum and how we want to move forward in the next phase of rule writing and curriculum writing and how that's going to work. So I'm going to hand it over to Cerinthia.
Sorry. Oops. Excuse me, bear with me. Yikes. So in the documents you guys were sent today, or last night, whenever Sammy sent them? Yesterday. You have a copy of what the current curriculum is, which is basically what the rule states. The 600 hours of training, and the course must include 235 hours of theory and at least 365 hours of practical experience. And then the chart down below shows you specifically where the practical hours are and the theory hours are. So at the March 10th meeting, I had provided you with a draft curriculum based on other states and also other curriculums that we have in this office. And like Sammy had said, the electrology curriculum, I think, goes back to, and I'm sure Sheila or Jamie or someone can correct me, in 1988. And so there has not been a comprehensive document created for a curriculum in this office since 1988. And so with the draft that I had provided you, it is, again, very fluid, taking the numbers off of other states, information that Audrey had provided us in that letter, and then, again, the documentation is consistent with other curriculums we have in our office. So if you guys want to go to the draft curriculum, and go to the chart, which includes the hours and operations theory, practical, and operations. Is everybody following? Okay. I did get some additional information from Audrey. Thank you very much. So one of the things that we needed to look at is the minimum operations. And one of the things that I had talked about previously is programs are or should not be set on an hour requirement. They should be set on minimum procedures for competency. So previously we had the 365 hours of practical operations, and as listed, let me go back to that. Hang on just a second. I'm going to do this side by side. It had 15 hours of infection control and safety and sanitation for practical hours, 150 for electrolysis, galvanic, 115 for thermolysis, 110 for the combination, 5 for draping and positioning, and 5 for professional ethics and business practices. So in the draft recommended curriculum, I had stated 100 hours in each modality, in addition 75 procedures of choice within either modality. However, in looking at some of the other states, California specifically, they had 45 hours of theory and 60 hours of procedures. And then I believe it was Idaho and Utah. They did not specifically, or what I could find, but Sammy is doing additional research on that. They had the, let me look at my notes here, hang on just a second. Idaho had 600 hours of theory or 1,200 apprentice, and Utah had 600 hours. So anyway, so taking recommendations from Audrey and looking at California's and just looking at those operations, I think that we need to talk about what those operations look like in for each of those modalities, the electrolysis, thermolysis, and the blend. So let's get your input.
This is Sheila. I thought over all these years that the having the same number for each, electrolysis, thermolysis, and blend was a good idea to start with, but not realistic in terms of how much time a person actually practices straight galvanic or either single needle or multiple needles. And I really think those hours, or if we go to numbers of procedures.
Cynthia?
Sheila?
Hang on, Sheila. You're on the phone. You're not on MS Teams.
That's all I was given was the phone number to call.
No, that was on, you're on the phone number that was on the agenda. I'm going to email you the correct phone number.
I probably got it here.
I'm going to email it to you so it's on the top of your email, but they can't hear you from over there. So I'm going to email you the correct phone number right now.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead and hang up and call this new number.
Okay, but it's supposed to be on the computer and not the phone? Is that what you're saying?
Do you want to be on the computer? I can send you the link.
Oh, I could do it either way.
Okay, I'm just going to send you the whole link. And then you can click join the meeting.
Cynthia, or everybody, this is Jamie Bloom. Looking at the course of study that we had, I don't have the proposed course of study. I looked through all the documents of last time, and I know Audrey had put together a course of study proposal, but I don't have it. Is there any way you can email me that so I can print it out and look at it?
So yesterday, Sammy sent you an email.
She have Audrey's stuff.
No, it doesn't have Audrey's information. I got that last night, and so I have not sent that out, but I can sure pull it up on the screen
And share it.
and share it with you. And I'm going to have Sammy show me how to do that.
You have it pulled up somewhere?
No, it's in Word.
Pull it up somewhere. No, you don't have anything to share.
Oh,
So just down screen them and find it where it's at in here.
So are we gonna be doing this by the hand raising icon, or do we just chime in whenever?
No, hand raising icons would be preferred.
Yeah, I did that and it didn't get.
She got a watch for the hand raising. Okay, go and pull up your document. She'll wait.
hang on just a second.
I'm here, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi,
Sheila.
Sheila.
Okay, Sammy, and then excuse me, bear with me, guys, I'm new
Go
at
back to
this.
your-
And I want to pull up the other document on the draft curriculum so they can.
Whatever
look at-
documents you want up, open them.
Okay.
Okay, now go back to your.
Cynthia, it was on page number 2 of the document. I just didn't see it. I do have it.
Okay, now how do I get back, Sammy? Okay, I'm there.
And then undo that. And now redo it. Do you see? No. So you're gonna have to unjoin that. We're gonna leave the meeting for a second. It needs to reboot to bring up her screens.
I'll be
We'll
right back.
Okay, now go back. Here. Oh, no, I'm sorry, go to your calendar. Here. Okay, go to,
I can't just pull up a document in mid-meeting.
it did it to me the other day. I had to leave the meeting. That's the only way I know how to do that. Okay, now. Where's your document?
I think this is the one.
Oh, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, that's it. So you want to open it all the way up? Now they can see it. Can you guys see it?
Can you guys see the document?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. So one of the things that was provided by Audrey is this document, obviously, and it talks about minimum operations, 40 for safety, sanitation, sterilization, and procedures, and then the 20 practical hours in that, and then under the electrology services, add insertion training without current, 20 procedures, galvanic 40 procedures, thermolysis 60 procedures, the blend 60 procedures, and then 60 additional procedures of choice, galvanic, therm, and the blend, which is 280 operations and 260 hours, and then 340 hours of theory as specified in each of the categories. So one of the things in the draft curriculum, does everybody have the draft curriculum that they could look at in regards to the operations hours and theory?
What page is that?
Page 4.
Okay.
I can't see anybody, Sam.
You can't what?
I can't see anybody.
There you go.
Okay, there we
Okay, I'm
go.
just going to chime in. This is Cynthia Mendoza.
You have to watch their hands.
As far as we really need to change and take off the 100 in each modality. In my experience over the years, 20 hours in electrolysis galvanic, because they're really not doing multi-needle anymore, and just 20 hours gets them started with learning how to do the insertions with current so that they don't get infections. And then having thermolysis, manual mode, 50 hours, and flash mode, 50 hours, and a combination, in other words, blend, 80 hours, with the remaining, basically 175 hours to be used according to clients' needs.
So you're talking about the draft curriculum that I had sent you, correct?
That's correct.
Sorry to say something similar when I realized I wasn't on the computer.
Who's not on it?
Yep, adjusting that galvanic time down makes perfect sense. I don't know if even it was Audrey's thing of 40 procedures may even be a little bit too much, but so what Cynthia was suggesting sounds right. It's definitely, I think, she knows what's real in terms of numbers of situations where that would come up. That would be the procedure of preference to treat someone coming in. So
Right. So that way, they have they have the time to learn the modality, and then after they learn the modalities, they have the variability of being able to work with a procedure that is right for their treatment that day. Also, as far as having procedures, when you talk about California has hours and procedures, and it states right in there, if the person doesn't have all their procedures, but they have completed all the hours, they still must remain in school until they get all their procedures. So I really don't like to see a requirement on procedures. I've been doing this for over 30 years, and my students get a lot of procedures, and some get not as many.
I can't see.
I had students that just weren't very go-getters, and so I made up a
Click on it so I can see what you can see.
procedure sheet that they had to fulfill that forced them to do so many, like complete an underarm. It made them work on all the different areas. And if they didn't have a client for it, they could work on each other, or they could bring in someone. But because we had the aesthetic school, we also had the benefit of the other students that would kindly give up themselves so they could
But I can't see.
complete that area checkoff sheet. That was like just
Okay, can
me wanting my students to have
the shared
the
screen so I can
experience
see them?
on all these different
Can I
areas.
see
And so
them?
that's
Raise their hand if
what
I
I
can't see them.
did. But as far as the completion
I'm
of
saying?
so many procedures to graduate, I think that would
It won't let
be
me,
a
I don't know.
mistake to do.
You can't do both.
considering that every care is
Usually have
different,
somebody monitor.
then what
Make it then go white.
multiple learning experiences. So I think dovetailing dispositions procedures is a complication.
It is a complication.
I have another, so as far as procedures, you have a certain amount of hours that you have to be doing thermolysis, they still have to complete that hour of doing thermolysis rather than being in the school. So procedures would almost be easier to complete, because if you have a procedure that's 20 minutes versus having to complete an hour of thermolysis, then it's less time in the school.
No, you can't get less time in the school, Audrey, because you have to go back to legislation to change the 600-hour course, and you can't get rid of that unless it goes back to law.
Actually, can I speak here? Hang on just a second, you guys. I had to pull somebody in because if I'm looking at the document, I can't see who has raised their hand. So I have pulled in a staff member to be able to assist me look at the document and see who's raising their hand. I'm going to pull up the curriculum, the draft curriculum, so we can actually work that document. And then, so I apologize for not being able to raise your hand. Let me get the correct document up here, okay? Which I'm, again, going to ask Sammy for her assistance on, because when I tried to pull it up, it wouldn't come up. So, there we go.
I can see it now. I'll pull it up.
Can you see this document?
No.
Okay. So
Where's the document that you want to look at?
it's right here, right there.
Okay.
That's Lacey's. That's my first document. Do I have to close that out?
Can you see that, guys?
Yes.
Is that Lacey's?
Yes.
There you go.
Can you see that one, you guys?
They can see it if you can see them in the corner.
Okay. Okay, so we are going to get down to page 4 on the draft curriculum.
Several people have their hand up. You just gotta let me know what you want me to do.
Okay, so we're going to
You
pick.
log into your computer.
I'm sorry, what?
You log into your computer.
Yes, I will. Go ahead and,
Lacey has her hand up.
Lacey, go ahead.
All right, so you're kind of wrong about California. So I teach at AIE, American Institute of Education in California. I'm currently licensed in California, and I teach down there on a monthly basis. So the way the procedures work down there, as far as hours, there is a time minimum per procedure, and procedure is considered a certain amount of time. And I truthfully believe that the time that Audrey has on the galvanic and the other modalities is really actually very current and very good. And I would argue that matter, especially doing what I do. And there is still a lot of people that use the blend. We just had our meeting. There was quite a few people there. But as far as procedures go, a half hour is considered, an hour is considered a procedure on somebody down there. So that's how you get your hours when you do a minimum procedure number. There's also an hour or time equation to that. So I know at AID, if someone does not have probe in hand, we actually punch them out on the time clock. So that is time probe in hand working on someone. If you go to the bathroom, the instructor walks over and punches you out on the time clock, and you are required to get so much time in per procedure. Also, we have to be careful when we change our times on the different modalities, because if someone gets licensed in the state of Oregon and wants to request reciprocity to move to another state, there are requirements by each of the states for our per modality to gain reciprocity in those states. And if we want our program to be good, where people can get licensed here in Oregon and also be able to transfer other states, then we need to be able to stick with those requirements. And the nice thing is California just changed their stuff 2 years ago. And 2 years ago, Oregon required people coming from California seeking reciprocity, they have to be able to take the test and the practical again. And then they changed it right after January 1, they switched to the national requirements, which allowed then Oregon granted Sarah by at that time, we granted people direct reciprocity and allow them to licensure in the state of Oregon, because California not only changed their curriculum requirements and their procedures and also the testing procedures to meet national requirements.
Anybody else have their hand up, Maria?
Yeah. Cynthia.
Cynthia, go ahead.
Okay, as far as us trying to meet all the other states' requirements, that's not something that we can do because there's states that are 1,200 hours. So I think we need to take care of Oregon, and California's been, if they've been licensed in California, then they've had reciprocity all this time. The only thing they had to do was sometimes take the written test. As far as the hours, I've been doing this for over 30 years, and to do 100 hours in galvanic, I get a lot of students complaining because they want to move on, and it's like, if I do it the way the state had it, 100 hours, they had to sit there for 100 hours with straight galvanic. And so the hours that I gave you are hours set forth that they have to be doing those modalities, because some people come in with preconceived ideas that they only want to do flash, that's all they want to do. And this way it forces them to have to work in certain modalities for a certain length of time and be introduced to them. And then after that, they can work in whatever modality they wish. As far as a school checking a student in and out every treatment, that's, my prices would have to definitely go up, because then if they're not there, but I am, basically you're so-called not getting paid for that time that you have to be there when they don't have a client. So that doesn't work as far as a school is concerned. And it makes it a lot more messy.
This is Jamie. Cynthia, I think you're a little bit wrong. From what I know, when I used to proctor the exams, if somebody had a California license, they still had to take, they were able to take the test, but they had to take the written and the practical test. And then after they passed that, then they'd get their Oregon license. I believe the rules changed last year or the year before, where if they had the California license, they could just apply to Oregon and receive reciprocity and get their license, but they did not have to take the written and the practical test. Cerinthia or Sammy, am I correct about that?
The rules say they need to, so I'm just telling you what it says.
This is Tina Russell, and yes, it happened a few years ago, and it is reciprocity from California. They do not sit for the practical, and they don't sit for the written.
So this is Sammy. We're gonna have to change that in the rule, and that's part of what this rulemaking is about, is to determine if there are exams that, if say somebody comes from Idaho and they've taken the written and practical, the NIC, they don't need to take the test. So we need to determine which exams are the board is sanctioning, basically the office and the board are sanctioning. So it could be the Oregon one, it could be the NIC, maybe the EBAP. There's a whole host of things it could be, but we need to, currently the rule says you have to take the written and practical exam. To some degrees, but we're basically sanctioning the NIC exam. We need to actually make the change in rule.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah, we're getting caught up even with the practical examination in rules. And Cynthia, I wanted to address the statutory requirement for hours. It does not specify it has to be 600 hours, so it doesn't have to go back to the legislature to change the hours. So what I'm hearing you guys say is, and I'm going to pull up this document, and we're going to work on this document here. Get that back up. One of the things I wanted to address with the hours and with the safety and sanitation procedures, if you look at this schematic, it says 50% of the students' time is spent working in the school's clinic where experience is gained through actual practice on live clients, and 25% of the students' time is spent working on mannequins, projects, and experiments. So that will cover the recommendation that Audrey gave us in regards to insertion training without the current. That would be, I guess, you could identify that as an experiment as specified in that information down below. So, and then the other thing I wanted to address on your document, Audrey, is that you had specific procedures and operations listed in safety, sanitation, sterilization. But if you look at the new curriculum and it says, please note safety and sanitation requirements and knowledge are applied as part of each and every service and not specifically broken out into its own subject with minimum hours. So
the thought process behind that is that if we're looking to achieve a certain amount of practical hours, allowing the safety and sanitation to be a part of those practical hours will help us achieve that ratio that we might be looking for.
Okay, and so if you take the 100, which it's my understanding that you guys want to move to 60 in each modality, in addition to the, let's see, or 40, well, let's see, I'm looking at your document. Well, California has the 60 in each, and then you wanted the 40 in, or had recommended the 40 in galvanic, but what I hear you saying that is...
Cynthia, you just cut out. I know you're talking, but can't hear you.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is if several of you, some of you are not in agreement that 60 of in each modality, and then additional 60 of choice, in the electronic...
Cynthia, you just cut out again. I can't hear you.
I don't know why I'm cutting out, Jamie. Hang on just a second.
You can't hear anything.
You're muted.
No, I can't hear you anything either.
Okay, here you go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me get back to that document. And you guys can see the document that I'm actually typing in?
No.
No, I cannot see that document.
I'm still seeing Audrey's document.
I can only see the top part. I can't scroll down and see the whole thing.
That is not it. I apologize, you guys. I have not ran this. Okay.
You just have to go down here. You have two open. You just click on the one that you want to open.
I did.
You didn't, because I just did.
Okay.
Twice.
Okay, so here's the document in front of you. So what I'm hearing you guys saying is 60 in each modality, in addition 60 procedures of choice within either modality.
Cynthia, I am only seeing the very top up to safety usage, etc. I cannot see the bottom of that document.
Are we working off of the state's document, or are we working off of this from Audrey?
No, we're not working off of Audrey's document. What I have up on the screen right now is the draft curriculum that I had provided you before, and it had said 100 in each modality, in addition 75 procedures of choice, and I have it up on the screen right now.
No, we're seeing Audrey's.
We're seeing Audrey's.
Should I X out Audrey's?
Hold on.
Because I'm done with Audrey's.
Yeah, let's see if that works. Can you see it now? Because you should be able to see if they're up on the screen.
No,
No?
no.
Blank.
Okay.
I'm gonna go get me, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now can you see it?
Yes.
But I can't scroll it up or down.
You can't, Jamie.
You won't be able to, hun.
We're in
All
control.
right, but I'm only seeing, I'm seeing from safe usage, safety and sanitation, well, I'm not seeing the whole document.
You can only see what we have on the screen because you can't see the entire document on the screen. If we made it smaller,
I'm just seeing the bottom of it.
Yes.
you see product knowledge and chemistry, safe use and safety, safety sand, electrology
Yes,
services.
yes.
That's all everybody sees.
All right.
So,
My thing, it says, I see here it says 60 in each modality. In addition, 60 procedures of choice with either modality. On the other hand, I really think, yes, for plain galvanic, I don't think we need 115 or 100, and I think 60 is just fine, maybe even less. But I do feel that in thermolysis and blend, it should be much more than 60, because that's where 90% of our work is. Now, I don't care if somebody likes thermolysis or somebody likes blend. I happen to be a thermolysis person, and I like it, but that doesn't mean I don't use blend. On the other hand, I know a lot of colleagues that like blend because that's what the school taught them, and they really like the blend, and they don't have enough technique in just plain thermolysis. So I can see to take down the hours for just pure galvanic, because I don't know, I know of 2 people using pure galvanic right now, but I do think it should come down in pure galvanic, but should go up in thermolysis and blend. And I don't think it should be a choice. I do think that they should become familiar with thermolysis and blend equally, and it shouldn't be their choice of what they want to use. 60 procedures of choice I think is too much. Maybe 20 procedures of choice, but the rest should be definitely thermolysis and blend, so that each operator becomes really an expert in both fields of thermolysis and blend.
anyone else besides Jamie or Cynthia want to chime in on that?
Yes, again, I'm going to reiterate that galvanic gives them hands-on opportunity to develop insertions, so 20 hours is what I recommend. And then when it gets to thermolysis, I'd like to see it broken down into manual thermolysis, 50 hours of splash, blend 80 hours, and then I like the combination of the the remaining 175 hours being a choice depending upon the treatment that is needed. And that's something that basically their instructor and them should be talking about, making sure it's the right choice.
Okay, so we have, so if you look at the document, electrolysis, we have recommendation of 20 to 60, and then thermolysis, you had wanted to, what were the hours that you had said, Cynthia?
50 manual and 50 flash. And these are hours that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. Hours, not procedures?
That's correct.
Well, how many, so we're talking about procedures. How many procedures do you want?
I do not want procedures.
So you're going to tell me the consensus?
I do not like having a requirement of so many procedures being done. If you look at the hours, that's a lot of time being spent. And then, like I said, what I have interim in my school is areas, not procedures, that they have to complete a checkoff sheet that they have completed hair removal under an underarm, total clearance, that they've done all the different areas on the checklist, something that has to be signed off by the instructor so that they can graduate.
Okay, now, so I have a question, Cynthia. If we're trying to determine minimum procedures for competence, like I had said in the beginning, we need to determine what the minimum procedures are and not hours, because you can't really base your program on just hours. It's what's minimum procedures for these individuals, and that's what.
I agree with that. No.
That's why California puts a time base on each procedure. There's a certain time period per procedure. That way, so your time counts as a procedure on that basis. So that's why 1 hour counts as a procedure.
And if they don't have a client, they have to clock out.
If they don't have a client, then they can ask one of the other students to work on them or somebody else to find a client. But what you're suggesting is basically degradation and training. So if you say, well, they don't have a client, what are they going to do? And you're worried about the cost that it's going to cost you fully, that's not a good in the training situation when they need these hours of insertion, these hours of time. So it covers both, say, hours slash procedure. It's set a procedure-based time on those hours and make a procedure a length of time, i.e. one procedure is 1 hour. That we count a procedure. But if you work 2 hours and someone's late, or 3 hours and someone's late, then that's look at 3 procedure hours working on someone's late, or 3 procedures on someone. So
so in other words,
and it's also covering what is also covered under the requirements.
No, I disagree with that.
Okay. So it sounds like we have a consensus, though, from all of the other committees, and what we can do, Cynthia, is we can we can provide 2 recommendations to the committee, or excuse me, to the board. So we can provide your recommendation, Cynthia, in regards to hours, and then define how many procedures within those hours. But it sounds like most of the committee wants to define the procedure as being 1 hour, and then putting the minimum number of procedures within each of the areas. Is that Lacey and Audrey? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I'd like to propose that a procedure would be anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour.
Oops.
So you're saying that if they do a procedure for 30 minutes, they get a procedure checkoff?
Yeah.
So that means you count up the procedures and times that by 30 minutes, and that tells you how much time they have to be in school.
Well, they'll still be in school doing sanitation and cleaning up after the procedure and still learning with their colleagues.
Sanitation is part of the procedure.
Well, other sanitation in the school, doing their laundry, sterilizing
15 minutes, that's 15 minutes a day.
But you could stack them with having, 8 clients, and between the amount of time that they're doing their procedure and having the ability to, go over information between clients, that would still equal an 8-hour day, even if they had clients that were only 30 to 45 minutes each, but they would get their 8 procedures done in that day.
Yes,
So then they would be able to graduate without 600 hours.
They have 600 clock hours being in school.
So let's go back to procedures. Because we're at this point, we're going to focus on defining the time for procedure. What is that minimum time for a procedure? And I'm hearing 30 minutes to 1 hour. And then those procedures for electrolysis is the recommendation for a procedure is 60. And then thermolysis is as well 60. Now, did you want to break those down manual versus flash into 30-30?
I kind of agree with Jamie as far as the other 60 procedures of choice. We could split that between thermolysis and blend so that they're actually getting like 90 procedures of each one versus putting that choice in there. I still like the choice at the end because maybe somebody really likes galvanic and wants to specialize in multi-needle, but if people are agreeing that thermolysis and blend really does need to have more procedures, then 90 between the two of them should work great.
And you guys can all see that screen. So one procedure equals 30 minutes to 1 hour. And for the hair removal procedures, you're recommending 90 for each electrolysis, thermolysis, and then the combination?
So 60 for galvanic and then 90 between thermolysis and then 90 blend.
90 the blend. And then what about the manual and flash?
I don't know what anyone else thinks, but I think it's totally fair to split between the two. People should know how to do both.
Cynthia, you're the only other one that I see who has their hand up at this point.
Cynthia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
One thing
Hang on, Jamie. Hang on, Jamie. Cynthia had her hand up. Cynthia, and you want to raise your hand? Cynthia, did you want to talk next?
Jamie,
No, I do not.
she needs to use the little yellow hand.
Okay, the little yellow hand up there.
I don't have one.
It's a hand with a little smiley face.
It's a hand with a little smiley face on the upper right.
All right.
Yep, there you
but
have it.
when I'm hitting it, it doesn't do anything.
You got to hit it and then click on the hand.
Hit it and then click on the hand.
It'll drop down to a thumbs up, a heart, clapping.
Up now.
You need to click on the hand.
Yeah, your hand's up now.
Okay, it's not showing. All right, Cynthia said something which I agree with slightly. I think there should be, like in tattooing, and I don't know if it's still there, but I think an electrologist should have to do a certain amount of hours in each area. I have seen people come to me, electrologists, when I go to the national seminars that never worked on somebody's eyebrows, or never worked on somebody's underarms, or never worked on somebody's legs, or the bikini line. And I think we should also have in these rules that the school has to teach every area so that when an electrologist is licensed, they know how to do somebody's eyebrows. I know a lot of people have never worked on somebody's ears. I get a lot of male clients that are older and need their ears done. But I know electrologists that have never worked on somebody's ears. And I think besides saying how many hours, I do feel that people should be taught all the different areas. Now, bikini line is bikini line, and I can see where some people would not want to do the scrotum, but I'm finding today in Oregon we have many trans people who need that done for surgery, and I don't know if I want to say it has to be taught in the school, but if somebody wanted to do it, the school should be prepared to teach the person how to do it. It's a slightly different technique because stretching the skin is really difficult, but I think there should be something down in our rules and regulations that, you know, the school has to teach eyebrows, cheeks, ears, breasts, abdomen, legs. Now, it's putting the needle into the hair follicle, and it's the same wherever you go. But I know a lot of people that bruise eyebrows because they were never taught, and you really have to put in that needle almost horizontal to the skin. But people haven't been taught that. And so I think the schools, that's something that's missing in the schools. All right, now I'll be quiet.
I can mute everybody.
Okay, I have, this is Cynthia Mendoza again. I have just looked over, and if 30 minutes is equal to 1 hour, and they do the requirements, and this is basically making it like a competency-based course, then they can be done in 120 hours of hands-on training. Is that what we're going for?
So actually right here, this is 240 hours. And well,
Yes.
if you make it, hang on, if you make it 1 hour, one procedure is equal to 1 hour, not 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It is the 60 in the electrologist, 90 in the thermolysis, the manual and the flash, and then a combination of the blend of 90. So that equals 240 procedures, and that would equal, at this point, 240 hours if you're doing each one in an hour. And that is just for the practical operations and then practical hours.
Correct.
Which previously it was 365, not to say that, that was too much. And then if you look at the California and then Audrey's recommendations, the 280 is what that equals out to. Now, this isn't giving an additional of choice, which we could...
I just want to interrupt you for a minute there. You said that the 600 hours was not law.
No, it's my understanding that it is not in law.
For Oregon?
It is in law. I looked it up.
In Oregon?
What is not in law is how the hours are divided.
Okay, Sammy's looking up in the law right now.
Mm-hmm.
ORS 690, 365 states, health licensing office shall issue a license to perform services in the field of practice to an applicant who shows to the satisfaction of the office that the applicant is at least 18 years of age, has a high school diploma or equivalent, has submitted evidence of completion of a education and training prescribed by the office, prescribed and approved by the office, or has passed an examination approved and administered or recognized by the office and pays applicable fees. Nothing about hours or in law. So, law being statute.
Yeah, I looked at the statutes that's in there.
690, 365?
Go ahead, Sheila.
Or are you talking about 331-910-0005?
When we relicensed, the magic number 600 came out because that had to do with being able to get financial assistance, and it was pretty much sort of a national standard for that reason. And there was a large variety of hours between schools, and you didn't have to pay a license fee. So we went with that to make it easier for students to be able to possibly afford to go to school. I've forgotten where it came out. It could have just been in rule. It's so long ago. I forgot. I knew it was written one place or the other.
So we got to use the yellow hand raising, guys.
Sheila did, and I can't watch and work on the document at the same time. I'm having problems doing that, sorry. Okay, Lacey, were you next? Go ahead and put your hand down, Sheila, please.
I hope so. Am I okay to talk now? Or?
Yes, please do.
I was going to address a couple of different things. One, that's why I was saying that 1 hour should equal one procedure. That's why they said that's why California does that way. 1 hour equals one procedure. That way that you can maintain a minimum amount of training per hour, and it's incredible. You can say that this is how much 1 hour or one procedure is worth is 1 hour. That's why it needs to be a definite time amount per procedure. And that's because, like what you're saying, is between 30 minutes and an hour, someone can gun deck that and say, well, okay, well, I'm only doing 30-minute procedures all over the place, and then I'm going to cut my hours in half by that way, and it's a total loss of training. So that's why a procedure needs to equal a minimum amount of time of 1 hour. So, or you can do your procedures in blocks of an hour, but it has to equal a certain time. That way you're not getting someone trying to gun deck and cut down their training in half, because people go through that. I see it all the time when I teach down at AIE California. The other thing I was going to kind of make a comment was about Jamie and wanting the thermolysis splitting between manual and flash. You got to remember that it's on certain machines. Certain machines do flash and certain machines do manual. Not every machine that does that, and a lot of machines today, especially like some that come from Electrology and stuff like that, the EBAP and stuff, will automatically do that itself, split between whatever it's doing by what it reads on the body. So the other thing that I'd like to add to this whole thing is when we're talking about specific body parts and areas, I really think that the genital portion for pre-surgery needs to be specialized training of its own, away from just actual school training. It should be considered more advanced training. I see a lot of transplants come in that are completely jacked up sometimes by other electrologists who don't know what they're doing. Plus the world of genital work is changing. I do anesthetized procedures where I have my clients anesthetized for up to 8 hours, and that's done by myself and a surgeon. There's a lot of things that are changing in the world of electrology when it comes to medical electrology for trans work, and that really can't be covered in the area of what somebody does in school for school procedures. I don't know if I lost Cynthia Murphy there, but that's what I'd like to add with the body parts. I agree with the average body parts of ears, eyebrows, and that. I think that's right. But when it comes to doing gender reassignment work, that's an area really all of its own. I mean, I know there's a couple of people on here that know how to do phalloplasty work or how to do bubuloplasty, vaginoplasty, or, but it really needs to be more training if someone's going to go into that area, and I would kind of suggest that area kind of would be a add on to someone's training. So, but if you put it into schoolwork, and people think they can do like 3 or 4 hours of school and then be able to go in and adequately work in someone's genital area for pre-surgery, that's really cut things off short and small. But depends on what we get for procedure time for a body part. That's a whole other box that you're going to open right there. The Pandora's box is how many of those hours do you allocate to each body part? So it's something else that's going to add more to the mix. I'm done. Sorry.
And thank you for that, Lacey. And can you put your hand down? And then, so in that hour of procedure, that encompasses whether you're doing 30, 45 minutes in the actual procedure itself, but it starts with the setup, the safety and sanitation, infection control, the actual procedure, and that the tear down, the cleanup. And so that hour encompasses all of that information. And so for each procedure, whether you're doing, it doesn't, I want to address the body parts, but whatever body part you're doing at this point within that 1 hour, it encompasses that whole procedure, start to finish. So, and then what, Lacey, what I hear you saying is in the regards to the machines, if they don't have the manual or flash, dependent on the machine, so that would really be up to the educational institution if they are I don't know, I guess we need to decide if they need the training on the manual or flash at that educational level or training level. So if I have a machine that only does the manual and it doesn't do the flash, then whoever's training me or whatever school I have or go to has to have both machines if this committee feels like they need to be trained on both the manual and the flash. And then the other thing is in regards to body parts, what we can do is if this committee decides that they need to, under each of these procedures, under each of the different modalities, the electrolysis, thermolysis, and the blend, have the different body parts added to that. That's something that this committee would need to add here as well. And let's see, Jamie, you were next. Jamie?
All right. Ears, eyebrows, legs, underarms, eyebrows, legs, underarms, bikini line, B-I-K.
Oh, sorry.
Bikini area, abdomen, breasts, chest, shoulders, or back, and a lot of these can be combined too. All right. On the other hand, my thing is that thermolysis should just be 90. You can teach manual and flash, but I don't think you have to do 45 hours or procedures in flash or 45 hours or procedures in manual, but I do think you should do 90 hours in both. I think thermolysis, just like blend, there's different kinds of blend. You can put your galvanic current on, then your thermolysis current, and go back to galvanic. You can start with thermolysis and go to galvanic. There are different ways of doing blend, and there are different ways of doing thermolysis. I don't think you have to, I don't think you have to separate them out. I think it should just be one, thermolysis. Just like you have blend is one. And in the training, there's different methods and timing and all of that, and that's part of doing thermolysis for 90 procedures or hours, and that's the same as doing blend, which way you do your blend. They all work differently. A lot is in I can't think of the word. It's up to the technician which method they're going to use, but I do think the school, when they're teaching thermolysis, does have to teach flash and manual, but it's all encompassing. It's the same thing when the school teaches blend. They do the different types of blend with different currents, and that's up to the school, but I do think blend should just be 90 hours. And I definitely feel that 1% of one procedure should be 1 hour. And then the other thing is, I don't think we should lower our hours to 600. It's AEA is trying to upgrade the standards. Massachusetts, I think their school is 1,200 hours. And I know if you're in an unlicensed state, in order to get your CPE, Certified Professional Electrologist, you have to put in a certain amount of schooling from a chair side, and I believe the number is now 600 hours there too. So I am a big proponent of not dropping our hours for the school. I think it should remain at 600 hours. Now I'll be quiet.
Sheila?
Well, I wanted to, I think those comments are really good. I like keeping the 600 hours. As regarding the areas, I really think it's really must be difficult for a school owner to provide people for students that have certain areas. I mean, it depends who walks through the door requesting student work or what area they want treated. And you might be able to get all these areas, you may not, between other students or within the other disciplines in the school, like Cynthia has, like people coming in for different things that might be able to come in and have an area done, but you may not get a chance to work on someone who's in transition or wants their bikini line done in the gloomy weather. They're not thinking about putting on the swimsuits, things like that. So you're not going to, you don't know exactly you're going to get all the areas. That doesn't mean you can't be trained how to do it. It doesn't have to be a procedure, but it could still be something that is addressed in the training, whether it's through video or lecture, that you can still know how to do it when the situation comes up so that you're comfortable with it. But I don't know about putting it in rule that it has to be, each of those areas has to be done. I think it puts a lot of pressure on the school if we do that. That's all I had.
Lacey, did you have another comment? You were, or is Cynthia next? Hang on.
Audrey Jones is next. She's been waiting a long time.
Oh, I apologize. Audrey, go ahead.
Audrey's hand's on.
Audrey's hand isn't up.
Oh, is it up?
Now it is.
Now it is.
Hi. I totally agree with Sheila. I think that it's not necessary to put specific areas. I think that when you develop curriculum in the school, part of that, like positioning and talking about insertions, will be go over talking, about different areas and difficulties you might run into. I do think it would put an unnecessary burden on the school to try to locate models for all those different areas, and what happens if they can't find those models. Also, as far as those areas, tattoo rules and licensing, do they have specific rules about like doing tattoos on a certain amount of different body parts, or is it just do your procedures and that's good? That would be something to kind of reflect on if you wanted to try this model, that kind of similar program. And then the other thing I was going to talk about, what was it?
In a rule, anyway.
Oh my gosh, I lost my train of thought. I also agree that thermolysis can just be 90 hours. I don't think you necessarily have to split it into two. But yeah, that's all I have for now.
Okay, Cynthia, you're next.
Okay, so back to, I do a lot to try to get my students so that they're prepared when they leave. And that's why I made my own checkoff sheet for them to have to work on different areas. Now, no, we don't get as many backs in, so a back is not on the list, but your most common areas are really important. Now, if you're changing this all from hourly to procedure, then I guess that they're going to have to do whatever they have to do. I guess I'm just not liking this at all.
Well, Cynthia, it will be an hourly program based on the number of procedures that you determine. So based on what everybody has talked about, you have your 60 procedures in electrolysis, your 90 in thermolysis, and your 90 in the blend, and then additional 40. That comes up to 280 hours in procedures if it's defined as 1 hour per procedure. So you have 280 hours of practical work. And then what we'll do is we'll look at the theory. So at this point, you've got your 280 plus your, 225 in theory. And I think that Audrey had recommended 340 hours of theory. So, and it used to be, or currently is 235. So we need to come up with theory. So now your program equals at this point with what's up on the screen is your program now is 505 hours. You have a 500-hour program with what is up on the screen for practical procedures and theory. So now you have a 500-hour program or 505 at this point.
Now, it needs to go and stay and remain 600 hours. And having taught my students for the length of time that I have, that time that they're in school doing the hands-on portion is critical. And you're taking away from it.
Okay, hang on just a second. So what I'm going to go two different routes here. We have what I'm hearing from Cynthia that says she wants to, and we can do two recommendations. This is not a problem. You want to maintain a 600-hour course, Cynthia, and you want to, do you agree with the procedure for 1 hour and then the number of procedures?
I don't.
Okay.
I've already told you that.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to type listen and get several people's. So what are you saying that you want to keep the current procedures as is?
No, I didn't want it to be a procedure. I wanted it to be hours of training with so many hours in each field and then the rest of the hours by choice.
Okay, and in each of the electrolysis, thermolysis, and the blend, what did you want in regards to those?
I wanted 20 hours in galvanic, thermolysis manual 50 hours, thermolysis flash.
Hang on. I can only type So you wanted the 20 hours in galvanic, the 50 hours in thermolysis, and you wanted those broken up.
And 50 hours in flash.
Okay, hang on.
80 hours in...
Hang on. And then what else did you want? And the blend, how many hours?
80.
Okay.
With the remaining 175 hours in any of the modalities.
Any combination of the listed above?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do with that, Cynthia, is I am going to have to make a mock curriculum up. And then how many hours did you want in theory then, Cynthia?
Well, I was just using our divisions that we already had, 345 and, no,
235?
260.
And you agree with leaving those stat as they are, correct?
I do.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so with that, what I'm going to say, Cynthia, is I'm going to have to mock up what you have in regards to your recommendation. And then what I'm going to do is, because I hear the other committee members wanting to move forward with the change and in regards to what we're working on here. And so we're going to work through this process with the other committee members. And then, Cynthia, I'm going to come back and put something together for yours as well. And then we'll have 2 recommendations, okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Hang on just a second. I believe Sammy Patnode has her hand up.
So basically, if you're going to have separate recommendations, you can do it a couple different ways. You could have both of them up to the committee, and the committee can recommend one, or you can do it more in the way Cynthia said, is have this recommendation from this committee member and this recommendation from all of these, or if everybody had their own recommendation, you could do it that way. Obviously, it's much more lengthy. It's better to try to come to a consensus or try to be flexible where you can try to come to the middle. That's kind of the whole point of having a Rules Advisory Committee, is how can we all come together for the best outcome to protect the public and still get students through the classroom in the practical setting to get them to start working.
Yes.
So
yes, and Paul,
to see
go ahead.
all the different perspectives. So Cynthia, you've been teaching it, so you know what happens, what's been happening. But Lacey says like she has some expertise in from California. I know Lacey's a fairly is this right? A fairly new electrologist in Oregon? Is that right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Or not Lacey, Audrey. Maybe. Anyway, so using everybody's experience to come to a conclusion is always the best consensus, but if you hard and fast can't come to a conclusion, you can give 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 recommendations. But remember, the board's going to look at that and they're going to say, what makes the most sense? How did people, what was everybody's opinion? So just have that in the back of your head.
Yes, so with that, Cynthia, what I'm, thank you, Sammy. I've got your information down below, and it's with the other committee members that are having the difference in changing up the hours and the procedures. I'm going to move forward with the consensus at this time, okay? So with the combination, like we have listed on the screen, and the procedures, let's talk about theory hours. Oh, hang on. Jamie wanted to, Jamie, you're next.
All right. Being a teacher, and can you scroll the sheet down? All right. Being a teacher, no, scroll it down so we can see the top of the hours. All right.
Right there, Jamie?
No more. The page before it.
Oh, on the theory?
Yeah.
Hang on just a second. I'm going to try to make this smaller so...
All right.
There we go.
A little bit further down. Good. All right. Being a former teacher, and I taught science and anatomy and physiology and bacteria, I think having only 5 hours in microbiology is way too little. We need, especially with the pandemic going on and everything, we really have to understand, not only bacteria, but viruses. And I think that should be 15 to 20 hours. I think 5 is way too little. The other thing is the anatomy and physiology of the skin, hair, endocrines, and general anatomy. I really think that should be 35 hours. And I'm giving a general thing here, but I find especially a lot of us, a lot of my people that come in, that when I give a consultation, have no idea of the hair growth cycle. And I also understand from talking to my colleagues that a lot of my colleagues don't really understand the hair growth cycle and the skin, and they're trying to be, dermatologists when they're not. Now, I don't think career development has to go up. I don't think, I think Oregon rules and regulations should go up to 25, because being president and talking to people, a lot of people don't really know the Oregon rules and regulations. So I think that has to be entered into. As far as the tools and equipment, I think that's fine. Product knowledge and chemistry, I think 5 is enough for that, because there are products that are coming out every day, and somebody who's doing their job should really understand the products that are out there. Safety, I think, is fine. I think, that can stay in first aid. So I just added about 50 hours onto theory hours. And as far as I disagree with Cynthia, again, like, if you could go to the bottom of the page where you wrote in Cynthia's recommendations, could you go down there? All right. I would say we should do 60 hours in electrolysis. All right. Excuse me. When I say electrolysis, I'm talking about galvanic. And then thermolysis, I would bring up to 100 hours. A blend.
Hang on, Sheila. So electrolysis, the galvanic.
All right, 60 is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then thermolysis, I'd go up to 100. And I would not separate it out. It would just be 100, thermolysis, manual and flash.
Mm-hmm.
And then blend, I would bring that up to 100 hours also. And then bringing that up to get to our 600 hours, we need 375, which would be 2, 3, and then 75 hours of choice. So 260 and 75 would be 325, which, you know what? Bring it up to 100 hours of choice.
Which brings it then to 350?
360.
Thank you, Jamie. I don't have my calculator. Okay, so I'm...
And that way we can maintain our 600 hours and basically what we've done is we said you have to do a certain amount in thermolysis, you have to do a certain amount in blend, but then you have your choice of 100 hours to pick the modality that you like and want to work in. That's just my suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Audrey, you're next.
Hi there. So, yeah, I definitely think that we need to increase some areas of theory. I don't agree that we need to bring the practicum back up to the 360 hours. I think it should stay at the 280 and just increase theory in certain areas to meet that 600-hour requirement. Sorry, I just tried clicking on the screen thinking I could scroll up. But yeah, I definitely think along the same lines as Jamie is thinking that certain areas do need to increase. But whatever we needed to increase to get that 320 hours in theory, plus the 280 in practicum to get 600 hours would be great.
Okay, and then I had Cynthia again. Sorry, I need somebody. Anybody else have their hand up after Cynthia? Sheila did. Okay, go ahead, Cynthia.
I was coming in to tell her.
Did you want me?
Yes.
I think eventually there'll be a compromise on these hours when it gets to the board. That I think we've got a lot of suggestions. I'm not going to throw anything out for that, but on theory, if we're going to change that, remember we already talked about bloodborne pathogens, possibly including that in the curriculum. Although on page 2 of the section that came out, these pages yesterday, you just wrote that add current bloodborne pathogens to application requirements.
She's down the record
So
way down.
maybe we didn't decide just how we were going to do that.
We haven't even got there yet, Sheila. We're still working on hours here. We will definitely get that. I think that was on, that in regards to... You have two different things we're talking about here, Sheila. You're talking about renewal versus CEs versus application requirements. And then you're also talking about on the actual curriculum down at the bottom here, Sheila. Let me get down there. Hang on just a second. Under the CDC, under the bloodborne pathogens, we're going to talk about it there too, correct? That's where you wanted added as well.
Well, I brought it up because Jamie mentioned microbiology, of increasing those hours. That's where I thought if you were, that might fit in there. It just throwing that out. But I can see where you're coming from. You can come up some other way.
Okay, I'm going to, what I'm going to do is Cynthia's next, I'm going to let her talk. And then what I'm going to do, you guys, is I'm going to take a roll call based on recommendation. Let me get back up here. Hang on just a second. And then we're going to do a vote in regards to theory for career development, 20 versus 60 hours. So Cynthia, go ahead and talk. Is there anybody else who has their hand raised?
Nope. Okay. I think it's easier for people to really see, if they haven't gone through the packet, what is included under career development. And I agree that 20 hours is totally not enough in theory for career development. It needs to go up to at least 40. I have my students do a business plan, so it really makes them hopefully learn about this information. And Oregon laws and rules is about a 10-hour subject. And we go over that quite in detail with them, so that could go down. Anatomy, physiology really needs to go up.
I'm sorry, Cynthia, what did you say Oregon laws and rules your recommendation was?
10 hours.
Okay,
And career development, I needed it to go up to at least 40, if not 60.
yeah, I got that in there. So we have 2 recommendations on the board there for career development. We have 20 and 60. Can you agree on either of those, Cynthia?
It'd be 60, not the 20.
So I'm gonna take that 40 off, okay? And so where our two are 20 and 60. Okay, go ahead, Oregon laws and rules. Were you?
It needs to be about 10 hours.
Okay, and then anatomy and physiology, your recommendation was?
Well, if we look at what's included in anatomy and physiology, that's what I'm saying. We really need to go over and look at what is inclusive of that. And when you go into anatomy and physiology, I'm trying to find the page.
It's on page 13.
Okay. When you go into that is covering histology of the skin, which includes dermatology, diseases and disorders. So you've got histology of the skin, then you've got dermatology, you have, or disorders and diseases, whatever you want to call it. You have histology of the hair. So with that, and then you're also going over the basic anatomy. 20 hours isn't enough. You need to bump that up to about 40.
Okay, let me get back up there. Hang on just a second. Okay, so we've got 20, 35, 40, and 60 out on the table there, so we're going to go through and do a vote of everybody. So what about microbiology, Cynthia?
Microbiology, it is only talking about microbiology. It's not taking in sanitation with that. And that is microbiology at, what do you have, 5 hours on there?
Yes. Oops.
Yeah, and 5 hours is not enough. I'd go to 10.
Okay, hang on, let me get back. Oops, went too far here. Okay. And then implements tools, we have 40 and 55 out there.
Well, under implementing tools, the only thing you have is introduction of magnification, probes, tweezers, different types of machines available, and drapes. So that's really doesn't, because this is where it's kind of complicated here. On your summary page, 55 hours, and your implements tool page, they aren't in line with each other, because on my summary page, on page 4, it has electrolysis, thermolysis, and combination under machines. Mm-hmm. So if you're just saying, here are the different machines from the different companies, and this one does this, and this one does that, you're not going over talking about the modalities, really.
Okay, so if you look at it, Cynthia, if you look at page 14, you have, under the implements, tools, and equipment, you have, it talks about the magnification, the probe, the tweezers, the machines themselves, and then the drapes. And it talks about understanding and identifying implements, tools, and equipment and their effects and benefits when used. And then, in addition, it talks about identify, describe, and discuss the different types, purposes, methods, functions, parts, care, and applications of the items, tools, and equipment, and demonstrate the use of the different types of items, tools, and equipment for the appropriate application of for the overall outcome and effect. So that is quite a bit of information under that, tools and implements for each of those machines and those applications.
Okay, so really you're not really saying machines, you're saying modalities.
It's talking about both. It's talking about, let me get back down there, hang on just a second.
the applications, the appropriate applications. So I guess that is what's talking about the thermolysis, and the galvanic and the blend.
Yeah, see, that means that you're teaching all of those modalities then at that time.
No, this is only going over the implements, tools, and equipment and the items. At this point, it's only theory, and you're talking about those different applications in the theory part of it. So you're teaching them those different applications without the practical procedural portion of it.
I understand that.
Okay.
That's not machines then. That is not machines. That is modalities. You're teaching what is thermolysis. So those are what we used to have individual chapters of.
So with this section that's on the screen right now, for what is listed in the curriculum in regards to everything that was identified, you think 40 hours is too much, or 55 is too much, and you think it needs to be less, or?
Well, I think you really need to keep it to tools and implements. Take out the machines, and that needs to be a separate thing on its own.
I agree.
So it should just be implements and tools, and then have another one come in there where it's modality, not machines.
Oh, so you would also like to have, so
you have to have theory over each modality before they ever touch it.
Okay, so what you're talking about, having implement, tools, and equipment, which is everything else other than the machines, and so basically, hang on, oops, hang on just a second here.
So where you have it underneath electrology services, at the bottom, you have 50 hours in theory.
Yes.
And so that takes in what you're talking about on machines. That is, they learn the modality, and they have to learn it, how it is on the machine.
Oh, so it would go here under the machines or under the modality?
It would go underneath where you, at the very bottom where it has the services, you already have 50 hours there for it.
Okay, and there is where you're talking about the modalities, not the machines.
Right. So if we take, because you can't really go over the machine with them if they haven't learned about the modalities. They won't understand.
Okay.
So
Okay.
under tools and implements, you just need to take out the machines. And
I
it's
did.
just probes, tweezers, mag lights, stools, treatment tables, drapes, and
Hang on just a second, Cynthia, let me get down.
you've got to get quicker.
Wow.
It's a joke.
I know, I got it. So I'll modify all of this based on what we just talked about, because that's going to take longer than we have right here. And we are definitely going to have another meeting, you guys. So I'm going to go back up. And so now we have the implements and tools, everything other than the machines, and we still have the 40 to 55. We're going to have to look at that again. So now we have the machine. I'm sorry.
That's going to be like 20 hours now.
hang on just a second. And then you have machines, the 50 hours, and then down at the modalities themselves, 50 hours as well.
Right.
Okay, anything else that you want to add to this, Cynthia, before we move on the theory? To someone else?
Where you have safety and sanitation, and it says there that the hours are not included in the program total, that needs to be changed. Every morning, just like cosmetology, they come in, they need to do their sanitation of their treatment rooms, check on their laundry, get everything going, so that's a good 15 minutes every day. And then, of course, that is a factual statement about their clients. That's not included in that time. But we need to add in safety and sanitation under theory hours and under practical.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is based on this, please note safety and sanitation requirements and knowledge are applied to as part of each and every service or procedure, and you don't want it that way.
No.
Okay.
Because they have to come in the morning, and they also have to sterilize with autoclave. And so all of that is separate time, not part of a procedure.
Okay, so who's next on the, who's got their hand up?
Jamie,
you have your hand up?
Yeah, I kind of disagree with Cynthia completely. Yes, you're going to teach your students machines, but not every school has every machine on the market, and there are different machines coming out all the time. We do need to teach, just as it was down before, implements, tools, and equipment. There are many. Each machine works exactly the same, and each machine works exactly differently. My personal feeling is, if you have a thermolysis machine, it does do blend, but the technology is, it really does thermolysis. And it doesn't do blend as well. If you have a blend machine, it definitely does blend great, but it does not do thermolysis great. And therefore, each manufacturer, if you're going to buy a machine, the person has to know to go to the manufacturer and see exactly what that machine is doing. I don't think we have to get into all the different machines, because not every school has every machine. It would be too expensive for them. So I disagree what she says about that.
Sheila, the hours, the 50 hours on the machines, you disagree with?
But you're having two separate.
Yes, it's just not necessary. I liked it. The hours are okay, but then she's added usage and she's added hours before. I thought, I thought what was down there originally was really good. On the other hand, under microbiology, that should contain, as I said, more hours, because we have bloodborne diseases to work with in there, so that should go under there. I know Cynthia has, added all these practical hours, theory hours. I think it's more important that the person does practical hours. Now, she likes career development. I think 20 hours in career development is wonderful. No way each person is going to, I think it's a waste of time for people to make to do a development of their career. They should have a broad outline, but each person works differently. I like to work 4 days a week. Some people want to work 7 days a week. I give one kind of consultation. I don't have to, under career development, go to other electrologists in their office and see how they're working.
Sheila.
As a teacher,
Or Jamie.
I learned my trade as a teacher, but I didn't go to other teachers and say, well, how do you do it? That's something you should do. I don't think that has to be taught in a school. I think that's a waste of time and money. Do I think there should be a broad outline of career development? Absolutely. But I think 20 hours is more than enough. I don't know what they do in the California schools. Lacey and Audrey can let us know there. But, all these other things that Cynthia has added, I really don't agree with.
Okay, Jamie, so my question is, without referencing Cynthia, I want you to look and ask you, have you looked at the career development curriculum content in regards to legalities and taxes and regulations and bookkeeping and marketing and advertising and inventory and stock and business structure and fees and planning and scheduling and client contact and job search? That encompasses, and in regards to legalities under it talks about insurance options as well, and I'm not sure that needs to per se be under that section. It may, based on what I've been talking to Lacey about, be its own separate section, which we will work on later. But based on that entire all of that content, you believe that 20 hours is sufficient?
I think 20 hours is definitely sufficient, but where she knocked down hours on state rules and regulations, no. I've been dealing with a lot of electrologists being president, and they do not know the state rules and regulations. And I have to tell them. And like when CDC said we can't work, a lot of them said, well, but I can work. And I had to give them the information that came to me by CDC and HLO that no, we cannot work. And then they said, well, I don't have to wear a face mask. Well, yes, you do. And so I just think that, I don't think we should knock out, the rules and regulations of the state. I think they really need to know that.
Perfect. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, so I am a couple things. What we're going to do is Lacey and Audrey, I'm going to come back to you when we come back, but we are going to take a 15-minute break. Okay? So everybody, we will convene at 12:15, and then Lacey and Audrey, I will get to you when we come back. Okay?
Do I need to recall back in or just use my phone and walk away?
You can just put your video and your microphone on mute and then walk away and come back in 15 minutes.
All right. Cynthia, I just have one problem because we started an hour later. I must leave at 2 o'clock because I thought we'd be done, and I'm working this afternoon, so I must leave at 2 o'clock, and I just want you to know.
Oh, that's fine. Thank you very much, Jamie. And the meeting was scheduled at 10 o'clock and always has been. There was an error in the notice, so I apologize for that. And then we're going to take this 15-minute break, and then, like I said, Audrey and Lacey will get back to you when we come back.
Goodbye.
Okay.